Hey guys, welcome. If you've been learning game development and you're grinding away day after day, maybe you're following a tutorial online or maybe you're reading a blog or something else, but if you're putting in that work and it just doesn't feel like you're seeing the results that you want or like you're never going to get there, then this is the video for you. Now, to give you the blunt truth, I consider myself an intermediate developer in terms of where my skills are at. I've been doing this full time for 3 years now, and this feeling of frustration, like you're never going to get where you want to get, I don't feel this way all the time anymore, but I definitely still do have days where I do feel that way. And I do still come across features that I'm trying to figure out how to implement or a bug that I'm trying to figure out how to fix. And still to this day, I'll find myself wondering, is this the thing that I'm finally not going to be able to figure out how to do? Is this that dead end that I've been waiting for? I don't know if that makes you feel any better. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it makes it worse. Sorry about that, but it's just the truth. And I'm telling you this because there is an element of mastering game dev that's a little bit weird. And that is that the better you get, the more skills you acquire, the worse you are going to perceive yourself. And it's true, it does sound really counterintuitive, but the more skills that I acquire, the more I feel like a beginner. And I know that I'm not unique to this phenomenon because there is literally a whole graph called the Dunning-Kruger effect that shows exactly what I'm talking about. Your confidence is high at the beginning, and then you learn a little bit more and you learn a little bit more, and suddenly you realize there is so much that you don't know. And then you dip down for a while until you actually start to get properly good at your craft. Now, in the case of game dev, I feel like this is a process that gets repeated over and over and over again. And I have to assume the reason why that is because there are so many different skill sets you have to acquire for the umbrella of game dev. You're probably going to go through this Dunning-Kruger effect for every single one of those skill sets that you acquire over the course of development. Here's a really good way of wording it. Mastering game development means constantly feeling like a beginner again. And if you are feeling frustrated by this process, that definitely makes sense because it takes a lot of work and dedication to acquire all of this knowledge. And yet, for the longest time, the more knowledge you acquire, the worse it makes you feel. It's frustrating. Maybe you can relate to what I'm talking about and you fight against it as hard as you can by arming yourself with as much knowledge and gaining as much skill as you possibly can. And tutorials are a big part of how indie game developers get started online. And it doesn't stop just because you get past the beginning stage at some point. I still, to this day, watch tutorials for things that are new to me and things that I need to learn. But here's the thing with tutorials, and if you are watching this video, then you have probably already discovered this for yourself. Tutorials do not show the whole picture. And real quick, I want to thank Southern New Hampshire University, the sponsor of this video. I'm sure you guys know I wasn't always in game development. Before I made the jump, I was in finance, stuck. I was comfortable, but I was working a job that was draining my soul and it was making me quite miserable. Long story short, I quit my job and I started making video games, and it was one of the best decisions of my entire life. But I know how tough it can feel to pivot your entire career, even if it's towards something that you're really passionate about, especially when you feel like you don't have the background to get started. If any of that sounds familiar, then you may want to consider looking into Southern New Hampshire University. SNHU offers 2 online degree paths for game development: a Bachelor of Art in Game Art and Development, and a Bachelor of Science in Game Programming and Development. Whether you are interested in creating the visual art behind a game or diving into the technical side of coding and programming, these programs are designed to give you the skills and experience to get started in the industry. In the Bachelor of Arts program, you'll learn 3D modeling, texturing, and digital sculpting, everything you need to bring your creative visions to life. And the Bachelor of Science program digs into game physics, AI, and gameplay programming, helping you develop the technical foundations that game studios are looking for. And with the gaming industry continuing to grow, SNHU's focus on real-world skills and projects can help you be ready for a field that has a ton of job opportunities right now. Plus, SNHU's tuition rates are some of the lowest in the United States. And they offer support even after graduation to help you build connections and get started in your career. So if you are ready to take that step and start building a career in game development, check out the link below in the description to learn more. It is https://snhu.edu/Sasquatch. And thanks again to SNHU for supporting this channel. Tutorials don't show the whole picture, and let me share a little secret with you. They never will. A video that is in-depth enough and comprehensive enough to teach you everything that you need to know about any given topic, it just unfortunately will not do well on YouTube. The algorithm does not favor videos like that because they're not trendy or fast enough or eye-catching enough. So it's not as though creators haven't thought to do something really in-depth like this, it's that they're just not incentivized to. And if they do exist out there, then they likely don't have a lot of views, which again will make it hard for you to find because algorithm. So if you ever had an idea of YouTube being able to teach you everything that you need to know, then you're gonna have to let that idea go, unfortunately. But here's the thing, even if really in-depth videos like that did exist and do really well on YouTube, they still would not teach you everything that you need to know about a given topic. And let me explain why. I know that people have different learning styles. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and that is probably literally the only thing I remember from elementary school. I promise you though, when it comes to learning game development, it is not that simple. Just because you're learning from a video and you happen to be a visual learner, or you're learning from some techie podcast and you're an auditory learner, does not mean you're going to absorb it at a really deep level. The only thing that will get you to that point is constant application. It is that repetition and using that knowledge to actually help you solve a problem. That is what will make it stick. And I'll give you an example. I spent a lot longer than I care to admit not understanding how to use dictionaries. And I don't mean the Webster's dictionary, I mean the C# kind. They intimidated me. I watched videos about them, I read articles about them, I had ChatGPT explain it to me like I was in grade school, and they all said basically the same thing, just in different wording, and it was not sticking with me. I still didn't get it. It wasn't until I was able to find a use case in my own project where I was actually using a dictionary to solve a very specific problem that I have that I finally started to get it. And then I used it again, and then I used it again and again on different problems in my project. And now I'm at the point where I don't really understand how I ever did anything without dictionaries because they are that awesome. Those days, by the way, those days where you're deep in uncharted territory and you're trying to learn new things and you're making mistakes left, right, and center, you might even spend hours on one simple little thing that you could probably do in a couple of minutes if you actually knew what you were doing. I call those days nightmare dev days. And you may not want to hear this, but I will say it anyways. You will learn the most on your nightmare dev days. You will improve the most on your nightmare dev days. Those days where you're at your chair and you're feeling kind of fidgety and you're wiggling around because you have all this angry energy inside of you because you can't just figure out this stupid thing that you're working on right now. You may even have a pit in your stomach because you have this underlying fear that you're too dumb or you're not good enough in order to figure out how to deal with this. And on those days, even if you get up and you walk away from your computer, there's no relief because your mind will torture you, it's going to torment you, and it's going to keep on obsessing over this problem until you figure it out. I have a very specific memories from my very early days of dev. Is probably year one where I was just learning the basics and I was stuck on something. I don't remember what it was, it's not important, but I was stuck for 3 or even 4 entire days on this one little problem. And it bled into my work week, and I was working at home virtually at the time, and I didn't even care. I spent like 95% of my online shift Googling and researching and trying to figure out this problem because I was so obsessed. And when I finally did figure it out, I almost literally like melted out of my chair and onto the floor because the relief was just so huge. Those days, okay? Those days right before that relief comes, those are your nightmare dev days, and they are key. Those days are the most important learning days you will ever have as a developer. You will improve so much if you can get through those days. I won't say get used to them because I don't know that that's possible. They're really uncomfortable and very unpleasant, but just know to expect them because they don't stop. I don't know if they ever do stop. They haven't stopped for me yet. I've just gotten a little bit faster at coming to a solution at this point. My whole point here is inconsistency is normal in terms of your progress, in terms of how much you're learning, and in terms of how productive you might feel at the end of that day. It's extremely non-linear.
The afterlife time doubles back and loops around and ends up looking something like Jeremy Bearimy.
We all crave those super productive days where you've crossed off like 20 things on your to-do list that day, but we're all gonna have those days where you go to start on your very first thing and you get stuck halfway through and you're stuck there for the rest of the day. And maybe it even bleeds into the next day or the day after that. It happens all the time. It is normal and you should expect it to keep happening. The most encouraging thing that I think I can tell you is that every single problem you solve adds to your developer toolbox. And I don't just mean up here, I mean like literally, if you keep backups of your projects, you will have code that you can refer to later on in the future. I go back to my past projects all the time. The more work you do, the more problems you solve, the more your future self is going to thank you because it's going to save them time. I think that game dev attracts a certain kind of person that on some weird level enjoys a little bit of mental torture on some level, but keep going. Chances are, if you're watching this video, then you're probably in that valley of despair on that Dunning-Kruger graph that I showed you. The fun does go down for a little while after you realize just how much there is to learn, but keep on going because it does start to go up again. And when you actually make it up this time, it's there to stay. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.